And welcome back to Good Day Columbia. Watch Fox is celebrating Black History Month with a look at the achievements made by African Americans here in the Midlands. This morning we introduce you to a man who broke barriers while fighting fires.
Fire is heat and light that come from a burning substance.
The definition of fire from a man who fought to save lives, but at the same time fought to extinguish inequality. Retired Captain Abram Coles Jr., one of the first of 8 African-American men to join the Columbia Fire Department back in 1953. He's the man in this picture on the left of your screen. Captain Coles recalls a number of segregated incidents.
And we couldn't use the bathroom in the fire station. They took us down to headquarters for 6 weeks of training, and we couldn't go inside to use the water fountain or bathroom.
Coles says despite the treatment, he and the other men were determined to push forward.
They were trendsetters. I'm just a path walker because I'm walking in the path that they already set.
Current Columbia Richland Fire Chief Aubrey Jenkins says Captain Coles trained him and taught him much of what he knows about being a firefighter. Jenkins says by the time he joined, racial tensions were not as inflamed as they were during Coles' day.
Stories that in particular that they would tell, they went through a lot, and I'm just glad that they didn't quit, because had they quit, I don't know where I would be today.
This is a picture of the young Chief Jenkins battling a blaze at the farmers market back in 1984. Here's another one of him taking a body away from a wooded area. He says he'll never forget the fire that almost killed him.
The floor gave way on me, and the fire was up under me, and I had to grab hold to a window in order to keep from falling through the floor. And in grabbing that window, I actually cut my hand up, but it was better to be cut up than to be burned up.
As years went by, Jenkins started to receive accolades for his dedication to the job and would eventually become the first African-American fire chief of the department.
It gives you a sense of pride, not puffed up pride, but you're just glad to be in that number, and it just overwhelms you. Well, even now, as I sit in my office now and say, you know what, this is for real. You are the fire chief.
It's something Captain Coles and the others did not see coming, but fought for anyway.
Oh, I'm delighted to hear that he was going to become the chief. Of course, now, he was the best qualified man for the position, so I didn't have no doubts in my mind that he would be the man.
Captain Coles is 85 years old, and he's the only surviving member of the original 8 African-American men who became firefighters back in 1953. Welcome back to Good Day Columbia. Watch Fox celebrates Black History Month with a look at the achievements made by African-Americans here in the Midlands. This morning we introduce you to a woman who's making history at a local historically Black college.
I came to Allen in 2006. I'm a native South Carolinian.
But what Dr. Pamela Wilson didn't know is that 5 years later, she'd be occupying a position never before held by a woman at this historically Black college.
And I always try to shift the focus away from me because I'm just a vessel.
On February 8th, 2011, she became the first female president in Allen University's 142-year history.
The leadership on our Allen University Board of Trustees he's a true visionary, and he, I think, took a step out on faith with putting me in this position.
In a short time, Dr. Wilson began to put her hand to the plow to find ways to improve the overall university experience.
We have a $1 million grant from the National Park Service, and we will be restoring Chappell Hall Auditorium back to its original glory.
Under her administration, the university established its own police force,
complete with our own chief, in addition to 9 officers who are all certified state constables.
Dr. Wilson says she also wants to restructure Allen's academic programs so they reflect the community, making graduates more marketable.
We're surrounded within a 5-minute drive by 3 different hospitals. And one of the things that I'd want for us to develop is a health education program, or maybe even nursing or pre-nursing.
Some faculty members and instructors are embracing the changes.
Implication of rules and putting rules into place and follow through, that she just continue to do those things. She's brought a breath of fresh air to the university.
As not only from the perspective that she's a woman, but that she's from South Carolina. So it's really more interesting too to see someone locally that's in a higher position.
Dr. Wilson says although Allen University is a historically black college, she tries to stress diversity.
We have a number of Caucasian faculty members. We have African faculty members. We have Chinese faculty members. So I want our students to get the real world life experience that's reminiscent of what life is beyond the doors of Allen University.
She admits accomplishing all of her goals won't be easy, but she says she has the faith that she'll get the job done.
This is a place where we teach the mind to think, the hands to work, and the heart to love.
Dr. Wilson's inauguration will take place Thursday, March 29th at Allen University. Watch Fox celebrates Black history with a look at a restored building that was once the place where many African Americans got their education. That education all thanks to a man who decided to stand up against inequality. It may seem like just an old building, but if its walls could talk, you'd learn this Pine Grove School is responsible for the education of many African Americans living in Columbia during the early 1900s.
It was 2 rooms, as you see here now, and there's a blackboard up there in that wall that would come down and divide the rooms.
83-year-old Cleonice Rhett says she was 6 years old when she started taking classes here, the year 1935. The school and others like it were made possible by a man named Julius Rosenwald. Rosenwald was part owner and leader of the department store Sears and helped to establish the Rosenwald Fund. It donated millions of dollars to support the education of African Americans in the rural South. In 1912, Julius Rosenwald gave Booker T. Washington permission to use money donated to Tuskegee Institute for the construction of 6 small schools in rural Alabama. The popularity of the schools began to spread across the southern states, including South Carolina. These schools would become the primary place for African American children to learn because at that time they were not allowed to attend the same schools as white children.
They went to the better schools. They had buses, and we really got their reject books. After they finished their books, then we got their books.
The Pine Grove School, built in 1923, was one of 15 other Rosenwald schools constructed in Richland County. The total cost to build the Pine Grove School was $2,500. Black communities had to foot the bill, but they did get some funding from Rosenwald. When the school finally closed, the community continued to use it for events and meetings. Fast forward to 2004, the property now in the hands of the Richland County Recreation Commission. According to the commission, Pine Grove was the last Rosenwald school standing in Richland County, and they wanted to keep the history alive.
Their sweat went into building the school and to bringing it, their money, when folks didn't have a lot of money, paid to help bring the school here.
As a former student, Rhett was a front runner when it came to the restoration process. In January of 2009, the school deemed a historic site. Months later, nearly $250,000 in grant money rolled in to help restore it.
We've preserved a very small part of history, and that's key.
Cheatham says the commission is working to incorporate Rosenwald school history into South Carolina education. Tune in next week for our final piece on African American achievements as we close out Black History Month. Well, Watch Fox celebrates Black history with a look at African American achievements across the Midlands. This morning, we meet a man who took to the skies to change the course of inequality in the armed forces. From the looks of this crowded room, one would probably think that these folks were waiting to get an autograph from a Hollywood celebrity, but not quite. They were waiting to get up close with history, 2 of the original Tuskegee Airmen. Saturday afternoon, an event hosted by the Richland County Council got the airmen to the Jim Hamilton Airport Terminal. The group talking about their life story coming to life in the recent movie Red Tails. James McClain was one of them.
They tried to portray me as a hero. I was never a hero. I never wanted to be portrayed as a hero.
He was born and raised in New York and wanted to become a pilot after spending time with Amelia Earhart because one of his teachers was a good friend of hers.
On Saturdays, Amelia would take the class out to Floyd Bennett Field and take them up for flights
McLean ultimately enrolled in the Army Air Force. At that time, blacks were believed to be incompetent and could not fly. A window of opportunity was open for African Americans through an Army Air Force program that would train African Americans to fly and maintain combat. It was dubbed the Tuskegee Airmen. McLean says he remembers one heart-stopping moment.
When all of those MiGs came out of the clouds, that was a moment I wanted to drop down and take off. But I stood my ground.
McLean says he flew a P-51 Mustang, was also part of the 15th Air Force, and was a pre-flight inspector for B-25s. Saturday's event brought in hundreds of people, including David Gray, a pilot for American Airlines.
It makes me proud to be able to be associated with these guys, because coming up as a kid, you know, in the 60s and 70s, segregation was just ending.
McLean says he saw the movie Red Tails, and it does a good job at being close to the truth.
And that was the covering as a wingman when the fella got shot. We came back to the States fully dressed, and we were denied the opportunity to come into a club on the base. It was more than a fight.
Gray said this is because of men like McLean.
Thank you. Thank you.
That he got the opportunity to fly the friendly skies. Well, this Wednesday on Good Day Columbia, I have a recap of all the Black history stories that we've covered this month.